So yeah, today Vincent invited me to come and share about how to design transformative online events. And while we may not be able to go very deep into the nitty-gritty, hopefully by touching the surface and touching some of the main points, it can enable us to start to have maybe slightly deeper discussions, or at least some of these points will help some of your first steps, in the online event environment. So, but before we start to dive deeper, I just want to talk about the changing landscape for events, right? As we all know, right, offline events are not going to come back anytime soon. And these are some of the reasons, right? Firstly, the lockdowns depend not just Singapore, all around the world. It's going to be eased in stages. There are still bans on mass gatherings. We are also looking to prevent a second wave. And even if we have, events again, right, temperature screening, app tracing technology, and the different preventative measures that are currently out there, it's not effective, right? And of course, I think the most important one that we all are hoping and praying for is that, a vaccine has not yet been developed, right? And because of that, right, we also need to think about what happened maybe about 20 years ago. Some of y'all are young enough to remember, right? That just like what happened with SARS, right? COVID-19 is going to forcefully normalize the increased amount of attention that humans, right, are going to be investing in digital platforms, right? Like just 20 years ago, right, how people use the internet was very much for information and for e-commerce. So you had sites like Google and Yahoo, Amazon and eBay. But just 20 years ago, most of us spent, maybe only about an hour or so online, whereas today we're spending up to about 6, 7, and even 8 hours, right, on the internet. And the type of behaviors that we're running are more on like engagement and on connecting with people. We're consuming content, right? And some of the top platforms today are Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, Netflix, right? Especially in the lockdown. TikTok is of course something new, and Amazon as well. And because of all these things, we just need to see that online events are probably going to stay. And I'm going to share with you a bit about why you may want to consider running some of these online events. And some of the 4 main points is that unlike offline events, right, online events kind of breaks the geographical barriers. So for example, outside of Peatix, I run a morning productivity meetup called Type A Breakfast. And when we initially started the online version, right, everybody just logs into Zoom and we start doing our work together. We would have people join in from Malaysia, we'd have people join in from Taiwan, right? And that's just one example. Right? Another one is that it actually helps combat the space constraints that sometimes venues have. I have seen some organizers who used to run events for maybe about 30 to 50 people now have an audience of about maybe 100, 200 people attending their event. And just like today, I can see that this call is being recorded, right? It's easier option for documentation and content longevity, right? Because now what you've recorded for this event, for example, could be cut into different segments or different pieces of content that could also be used for your future marketing, or turning certain parts of the content, or maybe the whole call into a blog post that you may want to use for marketing, for example. And of course, I think one of the most important ones is cost savings, right? Now, when we run events, we may not have to worry about getting the food and drink. We may not have to worry about getting a venue and paying rent or space, paying rent for the space of the venue. So this is just some of the very upfront benefits of running an online event. But before we even start thinking about running online events, so we got to think about, okay, what is the type of event or event format that you may want to run? And for that, you need to start to ask yourself, right, who is your target audience? What is the main purpose, right, of your event? And the four most common types of event formats, specifically for online events, tend to be a webinar, tend to be also a pre-recorded webinar, a meeting, and a live stream. So for the webinar, it's basically just a private one-way broadcast, and it's more of like a presentation, like what's happening now. One of the definitions is that the attendees are relatively passive, but I think today we see that webinars actually have a more of an interactive kind of environment. Right? And just like the webinar, the pre-recorded webinar, the only main difference is that there's a pre-recording where people just watch what has been produced, and then maybe later there's some kind of participation or interaction at the end of the pre-recorded webinar, if that's how the event is run. Some of them don't even have any form of audience interaction, right? Then the meeting is, of course, more of a private event than a more of a public event. And, you know, there's things where there's like breakout sessions and discussions, and it's a bit more interactive. And of course, the live stream is more of a public broadcast as well, but it's more for a wide audience, like what we see with Facebook Live, what we see with YouTube Live, right? And just some examples of online events that are out there, you know, from the different communities that are in Peatix, for example. You know, we have arts and culture, we have nonprofits, we have meetups, we have food and drink, we have music, right? So from all of these different communities, you know, we have support groups, right? We have watch parties, we have food tasting, right? I know of like a restaurant that sells really good wine. You know, they would actually get people to order the wine, right? And they bring it, you know, deliver it to their homes, and then they would run like a wine tasting session online on Zoom, for example. So these are just some examples of the different types of online events that you could run. Right. So one example, of course, you know, talking about good space, we are really fortunate and really honored to be in a way supporting some of the activities that Hush, that some of you might be aware, do. So this is just one of the workshops that they recently did about a month or two ago, right? Where they would actually have different rooms, and in the different rooms or sessions, right, you would actually have different kinds of activities, right? And another one is about Fashion Revolution, which is more of sort of a craft type of workshop where, you know, you would sign up and they would send the items over to you, and then you can then use those items and then participate in the craft workshop, right? Then it comes to about choosing the right platform for your event. And, you know, today there are so many event platforms that are out there that it can get a bit confusing to choose which is the right one for you. I won't go into too much detail, but the two most common platforms that are out there is Zoom and Google Hangouts. One of the most important things for Zoom is to know that for the free version, it's up to 40 minutes and 3 or more attendees. But for the paid version, you have unlimited time to use the platform. But unlike Zoom, for Google Hangout, the time limit is unlimited, right? So that's one of the main, in my opinion, one of the main things for Zoom. The other one is that for the paid version, you can have up to 1,000 attendees for your event, as compared to Google Hangout, which still is limited to about 250. So it really depends on the type of event that you're running. I still lean towards Zoom, for example. Right. Two other lesser used platforms out there are Skype and Jitsi. And one of the only reasons I'm bringing this up is because there have been occasions where some event organizers have asked me about Skype, and that's because their audience is slightly older. And I think Skype has been one of the early video or call conferencing type of platforms that are out there, right, that some of their audiences are used to. So I'm just sharing this information with you today. And after this call, I'm happy to share all of these slides. I'll pass it to Vincent. Right, now for live streaming, right, the two most common platforms are Facebook and YouTube Live. Both right now are still free to use. But for Facebook Live, there is a time limit for about 8 hours if you're using the computer and 4 hours if you're going to be streaming from your mobile phone. But for YouTube, it's unlimited, right? And for Facebook Live, you can still use it on the web or app. But for YouTube, it's still primarily only on the web, right? And you can only stream from your mobile app if you have more than 1,000 subscribers. Yeah. And very soon, Facebook is going to be coming up with allowing more than one host. I think that's been a limitation that many people have experienced, especially during this time where more people are going online and running online streaming events, right? And to live stream events, many people use certain broadcast media platforms, and two of the most common ones are StreamYard and BeLive. And this is just some of the different comparisons. So myself and my team, we use StreamYard, and it's worked really well for us. So if anyone is not familiar with broadcasting software, you may want to consider StreamYard. It's almost as easy as using like your Facebook or any very basic platforms that are out there online. Yeah, it's easy. Anybody can. I learned how to use the platform within a day, so it's something for you to consider, right? And there's so many out there. We can really go on and on talking about it, but I just thought I'd just highlight some of the main ones. For meetings and webinars, you have Zoom, you have Google Hangout, Skype, Messenger, Amazon Chime. I used Amazon Chime as well, but it's slightly, it used to be free. I think now they're charging again. So I don't know whether I'm going to recommend that or still stick to Zoom. For the live stream, right, these are just some of the main ones, besides Facebook and YouTube. Of course, you have Instagram Live. Now we even have LinkedIn Live, Twitter Live as well, right? And besides StreamYard and BeLive, we also have Open Broadcaster software, which is slightly more technical. And only if you have someone in the team or if you yourself are more technically inclined and would like to try it out, then I would suggest you could give it a go. If not, for most intents and purposes, StreamYard or BeLive will suit you. And I would definitely recommend StreamYard since that's something that me and my team have used quite often, right? So once you choose like your broadcasting platforms and stuff like that, you're going to need to choose a platform for event registration. So I'm not going to try to make this too much about Peatix, but I'm just going to share through the Peatix platform what you will need to do to prepare and plan for your online event. Right, so of course the first thing is you need to have an event name, you need to have your event date and time. And for Peatix, you just need to put the venue as an online only event. And some of the things you need to take note of is that now that everybody is running online events, there's so much of things going online, you need to have an event title that stands out. And also one of the key things about online events is to be very mindful about the event duration. My suggestion or advice is that if you're running an event for the first time, to keep it to within an hour. And the reason is because unlike offline events, right, for an online event, it's very easy for people to get distracted. Some people might be surfing Facebook, or they would need to go outside and get something from the kitchen. So by keeping it to within an hour, you increase the amount of engagement and attention that your audience potentially will have, right? The longer you run an event, right, the more you probably have to spend more time thinking about how to change the dynamics of the interaction engagement. You probably have to think about having more activities involved to keep the audience engaged, and it's going to be a bit more challenging. So I'd say keep it to an hour for the first time. And you also need to find a time that works best for your particular audience, right? For if you're targeting people who have to take care of their families, maybe dinner time may not be the best time to run an event. You may want to have your event slightly later in the day, right? Or maybe earlier in the day, right? If you're targeting people who are working, maybe you want to target them during lunchtime. It really depends. Even for my team, we've been running weekly live stream events, and we've been playing with the different times to see what works. And we're starting to find a sweet spot for our community, which is about 12:30 to 1:30 on a Thursday afternoon, for example. So that's just something to take note when you're thinking about planning your online event, right? And of course, you need to create your different ticket categories as well, and also plan what you're going to put for your event description. So something that's really important for online events is that you need to share a very clear agenda with your community or with your potential attendees. The reason because, you know, now with online events, once again, there are so many events that are out there, it's going to be so difficult for them to choose, right? So have a very clear agenda of what is going to be happening, what's the content like, what are they going to be learning, what's going to be some of the takeaways. That would be what I would suggest, right? Add photos or videos of past events, right, to the event description page, where your attendees can have a sort of like a sneak peek or a glimpse into what they can expect for your event. We also include communication methods, because unlike offline events where people just walk into the venue and then find a seat, right, for online events, some of these event platforms like Zoom, for example, is the venue. So having communication methods to share with them, you know, how you're going to be passing that information to log into the event, for example, is really important. So you may want to put in your event description page that you would be sending them an email or a WhatsApp message with login instructions into the Zoom call or whichever platform that you're using. You would also want to collect a database. So you probably want to create a form, whichever platform you're using, you want to create a form and collect maybe the name, email address. Most important, I would suggest, is also to get a mobile contact number, because for online events, it's a lot easier to coordinate and send messaging out to your community or to your attendees. But also, it's a great way to reach out if any of your attendees are having issues logging in, or you want to find out if they're still going to be joining the event, for example, and sending them a text to remind them that the event is going on. It's also great to add a field where maybe they could even ask a question that they may like to have answered in the event that could potentially be part of the content or maybe answered later in the Q&A. But most importantly, and this is to do with some of the PDPA guidelines, especially in Singapore, is to ask for consent or to seek consent if you're going to be doing any screen or audio recording of an event, right? Personally, for me, I would just suggest to put that the attendees acknowledge that the event may be recorded and that material from the recording may be used in future for whichever purpose, right? Instead of asking for the consent, because then if they say no, then they may not be able to attend the event. So I would just suggest to just get them to acknowledge in the form that the event will be recorded. Right, so just share with you for Peatix, we now have a new feature called the Watch Stream page. And this is where you could actually put in your Zoom link. And then when people buy tickets on Peatix, they can actually just click join event from Peatix and proceed then to the Zoom event and then access the event from there. So it's just one of the ways that we're working to help our communities bridge the moving offline to online. So do check that out if any one of you are thinking about or are already running events on Peatix. Yeah, so this is kind of how it looks. Once you put in the link, in future, you can just click on join event, and then it will lead you to some of these platforms. One advice I would share is to maybe not share the link too early. This is to reduce the chances of attendees potentially sharing the URL to non-registered attendees, right, or to their friends. Yeah, so one of the things that's really important is that, prior to the event is to send a message out to attendees. And one of the most important ones would be the ground rules, right, for the call. So for example, everybody should have their screen on unless they need to, leave the call or the event to attend to something out of respect for the speaker or for all the attendees. Maybe also to have everybody put their name, right, and maybe the organization that they are from, right, as when they enter into the Zoom call, for example, as a way for people to identify, who they are, right? So having all of these ground rules shared prior to the event would actually help people prepare for the call. Yeah, and another thing is that, then you have to focus on the check-in, right? Checking in your attendees for your event, and that you can do via Peatix. And one of the things I just want to talk about check-in is I'll actually advise, if you're running events, to allow your attendees to actually join the call about 20 to 15 minutes early, right? And even earlier, the better, so that they can check on their audio, their video, check whether their Wi-Fi is spotty, and make sure that they're ready for the call, instead of them only joining as the call starts and then, trying to figure out, and troubleshoot some of the technical challenges that they may face. Right? Also, it might be a bit distracting if people keep coming in once the event has started. So that's just something I like to share with you. Yeah, and just a little spiel, don't mind, right? Now we recently lowered the Peatix fee. Some of you may already be aware. So it's a flat 5% if you're based in Singapore. And if anyone is joining from overseas, if you're in Malaysia, it's also a flat 5% inclusive of all the fees. And if you're planning to do fundraisers, right, if you're part of a charity, for example, we are running a preferential rate of 3.5% per ticket for any of the events that you host on Peatix. Just apply from there, or maybe you can just reach out to us via Facebook, or you can email me directly, or get in contact with Peatix, and we'll send you the link, and then we can apply the rate for your fundraiser. So the last part is, of course, once you kind of set everything up, right, you're going to be thinking about promoting your event. So for Peatix, I'd just like to share with you once again, now we actually push up online events. And then if we have attendees who want to just search for online events only, they can select show online events only, right? We do have automated recommendation emails that go out. So if you're using Peatix, just like to let you know that your events are being recommended, and that for our platform, for every 10 tickets sold, 3 are sold from our recommendations. So that's something you should definitely check out. And we do have certain featured event placements on the homepage of the Peatix web and app, as well as featured category placements for the different communities. You may be in different categories, so you could actually get some of these slots. If you want to find out more, we can talk about it after the event. So this was a previous promotion, but we're running another promotion. If you're going to be running publishing events on Peatix within the next month, we're going to be running some free marketing boost campaigns. So if you want to tap onto some of these free marketing boosts, please just reach out to Peatix to find out more information about it, and we'll share with you how you can enjoy some of this free marketing on the platform. And the last part, I won't go too much into it, is on the event itself. These are just some of the ways, some of the things that you could do to engage with the audience, because I think later we're going to be doing a sharing with some other friends, right? So, but some of the main things is, finding ways to gamify the event, maybe have a giveaway at the end for people who ask questions at the event, or maybe using polls, like Zoom has a polling feature, for example, or the Q&A feature, for example, that you could use. Right? Use some of the reactions on the platform as ways to get people to share their thoughts, or to show how they feel. Using filters like Snap Camera, for example. I think some of y'all have seen some of the Snap Camera filters, like with the potato in the ground and stuff like that. That's my favorite one. So these are just some ways to kind of make your event a bit more interactive. Of course, for if you're on a more serious note, breakout rooms are really great. I love breakout rooms. So I just give you an example. About a month ago, I was attending a TEDx virtual forum, APAC virtual forum, and they were just having main key presentations, but in between they would have breakout sessions where all the different TEDx license holders would then split into different rooms, and they would have sort of mini presentations or discussions, which kind of changes the dynamics of the event. So breakout rooms is a great way to change the flow and the dynamics and the energy of the event. And also maybe breakout rooms are important to facilitate whatever event you're running, right? So that's some of the main things. The last part is your event doesn't just stop at the end of the event. There's also things you can do right after your event is over, which is sending a follow-up survey to find out how people found the event, right? What could have been improved, maybe what else they're hoping to learn for future events, right? So you could incentivize them by sending them a survey, and then say if you complete the survey, we'll send you the slides, or maybe we'll send you an ebook with some more information, or nowadays we also have online swags like desktop wallpapers, line stickers, and stuff like that, which can also be branded if you like, or maybe just random ones that you think are really cute and funky, you'd like to share it with your community. You can also do that as well. So I guess to kind of summarize it, the first thing is that the event landscape is changing. And as much as, maybe for Singapore, we're starting to see we're going through phase 2, and maybe you're slowly opening up the economy. And you might be thinking about just waiting until things get better and run offline events. Online events are here to stay, and we really need to think about that. And to start running your online events, some of the 4 main points that you need to take note is to identify the type of event format. You need to figure out what platforms are the most suitable for you, identify what are the best practices that you can then put into your planning. And then the last part will be to figure out what are the different ways that you could engage with your audience and get them to be a bit more participatory during your event. And yeah, it's a vital factor for successful online events. So yeah, that's just summary, and I'm kind of done. So I guess I'm gonna pass it back over to Vincent.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. And I feel like what's really interesting for me is, the idea of when does the event start? Does it start, when the Zoom call or when the event starts itself? Or does it begin, way before, right from the time that someone signs up? And then, when does the event end? Does it end when the event ends itself? Or does it end, with some of the stuff that you shared on post kind of event engagement? I felt like that was really interesting for me. So thank you very much for kind of taking time to share. I think now we'd like to kind of open the floor to any questions that anyone may have. If you like, you can kind of type it in the chat, or if you would like to unmute yourself and kind of bring in your voice, we'll love for that as well.
Nicholas, this is Ash here. One question I thought maybe I can tap on your experience is whenever we organize events on Peatix and on Zoom, always there will be many people trying to get the password last minute.
Yeah.
So even though we send out notices through the Peatix messages, but when they are about to log in, they somehow can't find the password. So I'm wondering, where did we go wrong? Is there a correct way to do this?
So for that, right, like what I would say would be like, the additional information portion, right? Okay, so for example, do you send the password via the message
function? Yes,
message function? So you send them the password there, right? But later they can't find the password, or?
Yeah, I think either they are looking at the wrong, because I think the system will send many messages.
Yeah.
Some of them are preset, and then maybe those are just only a reminder, and then those that we send are those long ones which we thank them and we ask for this and that, and we tell them this is the password.
So maybe, yeah. So I think that the main thing would be that like so the additional information part, like in the watch stream page, you can actually update it. So maybe closer to the event time, maybe 30 minutes before, you could also update that portion as well. And also maybe put maybe a WhatsApp contact number. This is what I like to do on my event description page, so that people who have issues can actually contact someone from your team, right? And then you could just liaise with them immediately, because I know it can be a bit frustrating if they're online, maybe, I don't know whether they're tech savvy or not, but I'd say maybe for those who may not be so tech savvy, it might be a bit more frustrating for them, and they might get a bit more anxious about, how do I manage and do these things? And probably maybe after doing it a few times, they would kind of get the hang of it and maybe figure out what's your personal event structure or flow. And then they'll kind of figure out, okay, how am I gonna do it? I guess I'd have to know more about it, but I also would like to make sure I answer a lot more other questions. So maybe afterwards I'll get Vincent to connect us together, and then I can have a call with you, and then we can dive slightly deeper. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas. This is Douglas. I have one.
Hi,
You
Douglas.
mentioned, yeah, thanks a lot for the sharing. It's, you're good. So you mentioned breakout rooms. A few people chatted about breakout rooms, and they're fabulous. Myself and a friend participated in separate things where, because you could do a random or pre-organized, whatever. But we've done one where the organizer created like a spreadsheet with a hyperlink to the rooms. So you could go into a room, and then a person could come back out and then look at the menu and then go back into another room. I've been scouring the whole internet to try to find out how to do it, and I can't find anything, but it sounds great, right? So are you familiar with that, or maybe somebody else?
I'm familiar that I'm not so. The host spotlighted your. Oh, okay. Sorry, I had a flash. I want to see what happened. I've not personally done something like that, but that sounds really interesting. And the whole concept of like moving in and out of rooms, because usually, right, people will just end up in a room, whether the host decides or manages that, or they randomly like select you, right, and then you just stay there, right? But this is something where you can just go in and go out. So I think that's something that we all learned today as well. And it's something I'm also going to share people to, hey, you should actually have a spreadsheet, for people to come in and out.
Yeah, because you have the hyperlink and then you name it, you name the rooms, and then people can, it sounds good, right?
Yeah. Even I'm learning something today. It's like a mind-blown thing. Like, okay, why didn't I think of this? Right. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Yeah. I just keeping everyone young here.
Yeah, no, I just noticed Dave Lim from Peatix Singapore on the call, and I'm like in the master of like event or producing events. So I'm getting a bit I'm getting a bit nervous, like, am I saying something right? Like, need to get the Dave to say, no, Nick, you're wrong. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, any more questions?
Hi from Melbourne.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like what, 9:45 in Melbourne now?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah. Thanks for joining.
Okay. Yeah. No. Thanks so much for sharing. I guess we're on a brave new world, right? So many people are trying different possibilities. I guess you mentioned before that you attended our TEDx APAC
virtual forum
summit, like 4 Saturdays ago or something. Seems to be like ages ago. So I guess there was also sharing from TEDx Bangkok, which ran a couple of their TEDx events online, and there was quite a lot of learning. One is that the audiences were kind of peeved the moment they realized something was pre-recorded, and they were watching a pre-recorded thing, and somehow psychologically it's like, I mean, realistically it's the same thing, but somehow psychologically it's like a pre-recorded thing. Like I don't want to watch it. So people were kind of like strangely not focused on the content, but the fact that it's pre-recorded made it negative. Although sometimes pre-recorded was good because obviously you can get a very professionally run like a presentation, right? Everything's perfect, right? No technical hangups. So there's always this thing about somehow you lose all the physical humanness contact of it, but somehow people want some authenticity, and it comes from the fact that it's live. So that was one big learning. And the second thing is like I guess one thing actually. Okay, so surprise, in 10 days time, me, Vivian, and some other people, and a lot of the people in this Asia Pacific region, we're going to be doing a 3-day, 3-night online event. It's 30 countries. It's around the whole planet, and we are doing the entire Asia Pacific. So in South America, they're nuts. They're literally doing 5 stages simultaneously over 3 days and 3 nights. I can't imagine. But here in Asia Pacific, we're kind of doing one whole Saturday almost. and taking learnings from a lot of the other experiences, little salons or TEDx Bangkok and TEDx the APAC summit. It's like we're not even having any talk, so every single thing is a conversation. So even if there's one person, sorry, battery problems. I need to plug this in. So even if there's one person speaking, he says, no, you shouldn't be speaking to a screen. Grab another person and have a conversation with them online, because somehow conversations seem to be a bit more engaging rather than someone talking to a total online audience. Yeah, and in fact, we're having more free flow conversations. I guess if you think of it like a radio show or those late night TV shows. So we're having conversations where it's not just one-to-one, but having 3 people or 4 people have simultaneous conversations. And I think the dynamism of having people talking in conversation is a bit better than having presentations online. But of course, we're talking about more, where things are discussed and obviously not learning, right? Obviously when you're learning, then it's more like classroom environment. So that's what I guess some of the things that we would learn over the couple of months.
Yeah, I see there are also some more questions. Sorry, I see there are some more questions. Someone was asking something or made a mention about Zoom webinar function. Sorry, David. Just trying to see
no worries.
Answer all the questions as well. But I think we can definitely talk about. I actually like the TEDx. So just to share everyone, right? That one of the things I loved was there was this session where we had like a poet from Malaysia, right? She actually did this activity where everybody in the call would write a sentence about what they would do after COVID. And right, so we just created a Google document, and then everybody just wrote a line after each other, right? And then throughout the event, everybody would write a line, and then at the end, she would actually perform that poem, right? That over 300 of us wrote. And it was such a really like cool, interesting activity that everybody, I think, felt so connected, and felt it felt so nice to actually do that. It was a really, really great thing. So thanks for some of these.
I guess it's sort of like you just imagine that the function of a physical event is not just a question of coming and hearing someone on stage give you content, right? But it's a feeling of, it's a sociological thing, right? I mean, you go to an event, it's like going to church, right? In a sense, you can stay at home and pray to God, but what's the reason of going to church? It's to feel like a community. You feel physically, emotionally, whatever, spiritually connected to each other. So it's not a question of just delivering content on a different way, but it's also think about how people can feel connected to each other and not just connected to you.
Yeah.
Hi, Nicholas.
Hi,
James here.
Hi, James.
Thanks to Nicholas for your sharing, and also Dave. It's really great hearing about the different ways that about conversations and all that. That's something that I'm trying to do. Nicholas, I actually have 2 questions. So the first question is with the very small question is with the check-in function. Because I have to admit, I have been using Peatix, but I didn't quite use the check-in function. So what's the function of the check-in function? It's like, is it after you check them in, then they'll send a thank you email or something like that? Because I haven't done that, so yeah.
Oh yeah, so the check-in, to be fair, right, the check-in function really was designed, at least in my opinion, right, it's currently designed, right, very much for like offline events. So we have the scanning of the QR code, and then or some people have the laptop outside, on the table outside the event venue, and then you're using the computer to check people in and stuff like that, right? But of course, for most events that have like a smaller capacity, maybe 30 people, less than 30, I just tell them you don't need to check in. You just need to print out the name list and just tick people's names off. Don't complicate things. Keep it simple. So I think for online events, I guess it's a way to figure out, okay, maybe is there something we can do with the check-in function? So nothing special about it. I would just say right now, I would just use it probably as a way to just double confirm how many people arrived or attended your event.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
So for example, maybe now, Vincent could be ticking names off on a spreadsheet. Like say, oh, okay, how many people registered? How many of them signed up today? Right? It's just that.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss out on any major parts of the workflow. A second question, because I know that, and I did see the recent edition of the stream page, right? I mean, the one where you add in the Zoom link, and I think that's great. You don't really have to fumble with finding the URL and all that.
Yeah.
However, I realized that that's with situations where online events actually have one common link. So I'm using a current another platform where every individual gets a unique link, so much so that they actually only allow one person in. No. I'm using an online platform called Zoho. So they basically generate very unique links. So any suggestions, if in this kind of case, how do we actually deal with that?
Oh, so that means each attendee gets
a unique link.
A unique link.
So that it cannot be reused.
I see. I don't have any suggestion. No, because this is the first time I'm being asked this, so I need to check with my team, what's the best way to do it. Then I can come back and share it with you. I didn't know Zoho could do this.
Yes. I mean, actually, that was one of the things I was looking for when looking for online webinars platform, because especially if it's a free one, it's okay. But if it's a paid one, nothing stops the person from sharing the link with another person, and then you have 3% attending on one ticket, for example. I mean, that's just a question I have.
Yeah, because Zoho is more of as far as I'm aware, it's like a CRM platform.
Yes,
and Peatix uses Zoho for company-wide across the board, right? For all of our CRM stuff. So I would love to actually learn how you are doing it. Specifically. Because the other one is YouTube. The reason I asked about YouTube is that YouTube, you could actually, if you're doing live streaming, or if you don't want the live stream to be broadcast publicly, you could keep it like a closed broadcast, like a private stream, and then send people different links. Right. The only issue with that is that I could share my link with a friend, and that person could use it as well. And YouTube can't bump you out or something, but it can only let you know how many times the link is being used.
Oh, okay.
So but that was just the reason I was asking.
Okay, but for the platform for Zoho, they do bump the person out.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I would love to learn more about that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks again.
Yeah, it looks like I'm learning so much today as well, from Douglas and from you, and adding it to my notebook. Any more questions?
There was one, Nicholas, on that kind of to follow up on Dave's sharing earlier. Ash asked this question on, what do you see as best practices in creating a sense of connection via online events?
Wow.
Good question.
This is one of those questions where I can so many things to say, but hard to think one of the most important. Yeah, it's like to me it just starts with the freaking marketing of the event, how you talk about the event, right? How you talk about the description, what do people know, how do you make it easy for them to understand what you're all about and getting them to come to you. Then the registration, accessing the event platform, that's the first experience that people have to have that good feeling before then wanting to connect with you, and then that's sorry Dave, maybe I'll let you share.
No, don't apologize. I guess my response to it is that it's really very subjective to your community, because in a sense your community best, and what will make them happy, right? I mean, basically we're always trying to figure out ways how to make people smile, or how something can be meaningful. So it's very difficult to say, because it actually depends on what people value, and sometimes you don't ask them, right? You kind of know, because you're part of the community, what do people value, and what could be, either it could be something fun, or it could be something relevant to the topic in question. So to me, it's always starting with not the how, but with the what, right? If you decide what, and then you think about what you can do, and not just during the event, but maybe before the event. So I don't like to generalize, but basically if you follow the principles of in a sense, what would make people contribute something small and easy, because you obviously don't want people to, you don't want to give a big assignment and then nobody's going to complete. Like ask them to complete something very simple, like contribute a sentence or word or something, and then people feel like oh, I put something in there, and then your job as a organizer is to collate that, right? And then you show it back to the community.
Yeah. So
sometimes I think of an event organizer, or rather a community builder, as like a mirror. Your job is to reflect the community back at them, because as individual members of the community, you exist by yourself. You feel sometimes lonely, but then you want, we're all like, what do you call, like tribal, we're all like, what do you call it, like oh, I can't remember the name, but we're all tribes, right? We're social animals, that's the word for it. So we all want to feel like we belong, we are part of we reinforce your identity, right? So yeah, like what can you do to do that? Well, I don't have an online example off the bat, but I'll give you an example from one of the earliest TEDx Women events we did in 2010, and I think the theme was something like, something about the wish for women in the world. So even before people gathered at the event, I as part of the application form of the registration form, I asked everybody to fill out this thing. My wish. Let's see. Sorry, battery. Why is it not charging? Oh, because I didn't plug it in. So I asked everybody to respond in the registration form. My wish for women in the world is, and then blank. And then they said something like, a daring or freedom or something, right? So I collated all the words and phrases from each of the attendees, and then I put it in sort of a word cloud. And that was very effective, because people not only could see their answers, oh yeah, that's the thing I said, how many people else said that? And then what else did people say, right? So it becomes community content and not just content from the organizer themselves.
Yeah. I think just I feel like I'm the advocate for TEDx here, because I'm going to bring another TEDx example. There was one year I attended a TEDx event, and I think it was to Singapore. And we had like the lanyards, right? Each had a letter, and like there was an activity where people would go around the room, and they would have to form words together, right? And then people would take photos and stuff, right? And it's about just getting them to be involved, making them be a part of the event, right? But the reason I went with like experience, and I talked about was, for me, I feel like before you can even like start getting them to participate, you gotta get them to have a good pre-event experience. Getting to know a bit about you, because they're trying to figure you out, right? And then once they figure out, they say, hey, this group is great. They're organized. They're efficient, or everything. The information they're sharing is great. And then they come into the event with a really good energy, and that energy will also then help, make whatever activities or programs they're planning to run. It'll kind of run through, right? Because then they'll be want to participate more. Because if you get someone who's like damn annoyed and like pissed off or grumpy, and they're like, like it's just going to affect everything. So I think that's also important, specifically for the event. Then it's the post-event. How do you continue that connection with them after the event, right? I like to sometimes send some of them like personal emails, say, hey, thanks for coming, like, do you have any feedback and stuff? Like, make them feel that it's just not about, you're not trying to like build something for yourself, but you're really interested in them. I think that's also really important. And there's so many ways, right? Like the poem example I gave earlier was just maybe the online version of the TEDx Singapore example, offline event activity. It's the same, right? Just getting them to be involved. It could even be, saying, hey, we're going to do a competition. Whoever has the best virtual background, gets a prize or something, right? So it doesn't have to be difficult. I think the thing is just to start maybe just with one thing. And then as you continue to run more events, and then you can slowly add more. It doesn't have to be like a super engage or have 100 activities at one event to make sure everyone's participating. Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah. Thanks for this, Nicholas. I'm sorry, I'm just mindful of time. So we will have another kind of session another kind of segment after this where if you have more questions for Nicholas, you'll get a chance to ask them. But kind of before I transit into the kind of next phase, I would just like to maybe do a quick check-in. As Nicholas said, one hour is kind of like the optimum time in terms of attention. So just like to check in with, would anyone kind of like to bring your voice in to kind of share how this is landing for you, or to respond to some of the points that Dave, James, Douglas, Ash, and Nicholas can kind of talked about in the last half an hour or so? Anyone? No? Okay, if not, so what we'll do is we'll kind of go on to the next segment, which is the panel discussion. So let me just quickly share my screen. Yes. So this was kind of the different questions that came up from some of you before this event. So we kind of did like a pre-event poll. And we've invited, besides Nicholas, 3 of our community members from AGS to kind of share some of their experiences and insights around these questions, as well as to kind of start this conversation as well. So I just want to repeat something that I said earlier at the start. You know, there are so many people here with wisdom, you know, on this call today. So I just want to say thank you very much for making time to join us. And later on, during the panel, please feel free to bring in your voice, as some of you have already with Dave, Douglas, and James and the rest. So we would love if you can kind of share some of your thoughts as with us as well. So feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak, or just use the chat function. So with that, maybe what I'll do is I will ask Evelyn to kind of share, kind of take like maybe 2 to 3 minutes to share about, you know, what you've been up to in terms of online events, and you know, what your project is about. And we'll kind of take turns between Evelyn, Louis, then Sherman, and then we'll go into a discussion about the questions. So Evelyn, please.
Hi everyone. Hi, I'm Evelyn. It's so good to see everyone. Some new faces. Well, Vincent, thanks. I didn't know I was going to be the first to go. I thought it was going to be Louis first. But yes, so I'm the founder of Aphasia Singapore, Aphasia SG, and we have been running some events on Peatix. And I learned so much from Nicholas as well, some of the sharing little tips, which is great. So what we do at Aphasia Singapore, we support people with aphasia. If you haven't heard of aphasia, it's okay. I would just give me a few minutes, or just give me 1 minute to tell you what aphasia is. People who suffer from a brain injury and they have a communication disorder after the brain injury, such as a stroke or a brain tumor or brain infection or traumatic brain injury. So that's called aphasia. It's a language impairment that which affects the way they process language and the way they speak, but it doesn't affect their intelligence. So what we do really is we try to organize community events that are free to support people with aphasia as well as the caregivers. And we also advocate, because really, I mean, with communication, it's not, with the impairment, many of them live with the impairment for their whole lives, but it's about changing the community and the perception of what it means to have this impairment, and how people around them, so like the average person, can make their lives better. So I'm just going to share my screen a little bit yeah, just give me a sec. Am I able to share? Yes. Okay, hang on. Yes. So, right. So this is us. So like I mentioned, our mission is really to empower people with aphasia to lead meaningful lives. And that's through our community activities, to give them a safe space to socialize. And we also want to advocate for an inclusive Singapore. So this whole online thing has been really a steep learning curve for us. We started since end of February, because our community is considered, the population that we serve and support, they're considered vulnerable. So from about mid-February, we had to cease all physical activities. So about end Feb, we started to take our activities online. And with the online activities, obviously, you know, think about it, I mean, even for an average elderly person or an average senior citizen, it might be difficult to kind of go online. So our our beneficiaries or the community that we work with, many of them have communication impairment, and many of them are also considered senior citizens. So it was like a double whammy. In the early stages, before it was circuit breaker, we were desperately trying to reach out to them, going to their homes to train them how to use Zoom so that we can actually reach out to them. So all that happened. It was just like the lead up to circuit breaker. And this month, it's still June. So this month is Aphasia Awareness Month. And we really wanted to use this whole month. It's an international thing to raise awareness of aphasia. So it's like a month-long campaign. And we're very aware that this time this campaign is entirely online. In the past, we would do movie screenings, we would do physical activities, and we actually had a lot of physical activities planned, but we just had to shift everything online. So these are some of the things that we did. So this is a whole calendar, and basically we mapped out like things that we had to target. So some are for internal audiences, some are for external audiences, and a big part of it was also social media. So if you look at it, the blue highlighted bits are social media, original content, but every day we would post like two at least a post, if not like two posts a day. So this one is actually our first event, and I'm not going to talk too much about it. Sherman will share. We did a collaboration, a Netflix party where the show was also followed by a post-show dialogue with the director of the movie, and she had aphasia. And then we did a human library. So this one we actually advertised via Peatix, as you can see, which was great. This was our very first. We've done physical events via Peatix, but this was our first online event through Peatix. So it was also a learning curve. We didn't know about the streaming function. And the problem that Ash highlighted happened to us as well. Even at 3 p.m., 3:05, we had people just, messaging us on Peatix asking, hey, I can't get in. So we learned. And we ran an event yesterday. So we made sure we covered all bases. We put it on streaming. We messaged them multiple times. So we're glad to say only one person couldn't get on. I mean, which to us was a record, because the earlier event we had like maybe about 5-6 inquiries. Even some of the AGS members couldn't get in. So these are some of our social media campaigns that we did, educational videos, and so stories as well. So a lot of it was just online. So thanks for that. Okay, so that's all from me. And I think where I wanted to come in to share is talking about the audience that we have, because unlike, I think the community that we are supporting, they really needed a lot of help. So I think maybe Vincent asked me to speak to kind of share how it was for us working with a population that needed more hand-holding. So really, I think a lot of it was the pre-event part of things, which was mentioned earlier on. We really needed to prep them, get them ready. So I would say that's with the internal audience. Yeah, so lots of hand-holding and lots of training, unfortunately. I mean, even up to this point of time, I think now that we're slowly opening up, we realize that we are now in phase 2 and we're going back to the training. You won't believe it, but then people that we've trained, sometimes they actually forget how to use along the way. So we have to retrain them. Yeah, but it's okay. It's just part of the process. Yeah, so that's all from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Evelyn. And it'll be really exciting to kind of go deeper into that as well, because some of us on the call we serve different communities, and some communities might have kind of difficulty coming online. So I feel like what you have to share later will be really valuable.
So happy to share.
Yeah, maybe we can go to Louis next. Louis, please.
Hi, hi, my name is Louis. Then I run this social enterprise called Praxium. We basically help students, youth, to better understand what they want to do when they get older, figure out what their careers are all about and what they want to pursue in the future. But underlying our secret mission is actually to reform the education system, but that's a whole longer game. Won't talk too much about that. So like online events and stuff like that have been interesting because it allows us to relook at education and how we learn online. So actually I wanted to, before sharing a bit more, right, I wanted to share, because one of the questions was how we can create more connection online. My little joke is that you need to have stable internet connection first, then you have better connection online, because nothing is more disconnecting, right, than this guy just dropping off when everyone's waiting for him to speak. So that's one tip lah. I mean, you can control your own, but it's hard to control others. But I think internet connection has a big part to play. The other little pro tip, right, is I know for a lot of us when we are on Zoom, we like to use the gallery mode instead of the speaker view. So let me just give you a glimpse as to what you're seeing lah. So you might be seeing something like this. And as an event organizer, you might be kind of bummed out when everybody doesn't turn on their video and you feel like you're speaking to no one. So here's a pro tip, right? As long as we go into anyone who's not showing their video, let me arrow Abhishek, and you click on hide non-video participants, what you will see next, right, is that you will only see people whose video is turned on. And from an emotional standpoint and a connection standpoint, you feel a lot more connected to the group that's in there. So those whose video are on, you see them and you feel like you're talking to the exact people you want to talk to. So I think that's a pro tip, and I was considering putting that as like a SOP, right, for when you run your event, as for anyone who's participating who wants engagement, but don't want to turn on their video, just hide the non-video participants. You can always disable it lah. Then we come back to this, but automatically I feel less connected already. Yeah, feel free to borrow that internet connection joke. I don't own it or anything. Yeah, so that was one tip that I have lah. When it comes to like say the events that we run, one of the events that we've consistently been running is this thing called Learning Day. And it's something we've been doing at a good space regularly every 2 weeks before circuit breaker. It's an event that has landed itself really well to an online setting. Let me share with you roughly how this event works. Every participant who attends the event has to participate. Oh, how do I change between my laptop and phone? That's a whole technical conversation we can have if you want to do Q&A later. About Learning Day, basically it's an event format where everybody who attends has 15 minutes to teach and share something to everybody else. So it's quite cool because that Dave is here, right? Because it's kind of like a TED Talk where every single participant is a speaker. So that's kind of how we organized it. And it was quite engaging and interesting lah. And we've been doing that for the past 2+ years offline. But now that we go online, right, people are actually asking, can we do it like every single week, which we have been doing now. So let me just show you share a picture of like what this particular event could look like. This was an example where one of the participants was sharing about trauma and addiction. So it's on the highlighted, this Gloria lady. And then after that, someone else would then share next about some invention that he's working on. Next, then someone else is sharing a flight simulator and why he likes to fly. And like these are just random people who we bring together, and everybody kind of teaches and shares something from their perspective. And the joke among us is that if someone is boring, it's okay because you just have to endure for 15 minutes. Then you hear the next person speak. So it helps us to maintain the engagement, even if someone's like not the most engaging speaker. We still are able to move on to the next thing, which we keep open-minded for. But this is really for our own purposes because our whole goal with that event format is about learning. And we want everybody to have a voice, at least 15 minutes that we give them the space to do so. The other little interesting thing that we've been doing in terms of an online event is online panel discussions. So in this period of COVID, a lot of people are anxious about their future jobs and what should they pursue. And it's harder to get support than before because you don't have as many people to speak to. So we've been running these things called online panel discussions. And there were a lot of considerations in terms of how we organize this panel discussion. A lot of offline panel discussions, the trouble is you may have 100 people attending, but how many people actually get to ask a question or engage with the panelists? So the reality is that any panel discussion will, by nature of it, not allow you to engage the majority of the audience. So the design of a panel discussion is that way. So what we did instead, right, was we only allowed 2 to 3 students into this panel discussion along with the panelists. That allowed us to focus the conversation on whoever is in the room, and conversations become a lot more coherent. For everybody else who is interested to view or participate in the live stream or the panel, they are doing it via live stream instead. So they can ask questions in the YouTube chat replay kind of thing here instead. So it's not that they can't participate, but the level of engagement is a bit higher because we have a more intimate connection or conversation here. So that was one strange thing that we did. And it's really a point to consider whether if you want more engagement, perhaps you can reduce the number of active participants. Those who are most likely going to be passive, let them be passive. Then don't let them detract the active members from trying to engage. As an experienced designer also, I look at tools a lot. So when I looked at this tool in terms of online events, what I realized is actually everybody now has the ability to screen share and show something from their computers. So what happened was basically anytime the panelists wanted to show something or share something, they can just pull out a video or pull out a photo to share right away. So the affordance is there for everybody lah. So this was some stuff that they showed. And you feel very intimate and close to the content as compared to one screen very far down on the stage. So these were some interesting little experiments that we ran, which really tried to break the assumptions we have about how events should be. Yeah, so those were some of the little fun stuff that I've been doing.
Thank you,
I
Louis.
think if you want more, you can ask me later.
Thank you very much. And then last but not least, let's go to Sherman. Sherman, could you kind of share an introduction of who you are and what you've been up to with regards to these online events?
Okay. Thanks, Vincent and everybody for sharing. Well, Vincent, you put me last. Now I feel so unprepared after both of them shared. Okay. Anyway, I just give a bit of background about myself, what I've been doing, and then I share some general experiences. Then perhaps I leave it to people who have questions. Then you can ask if you want. So I run a social enterprise called Happiness Initiative, and also another part of me, I'm with this non-profit called Singapore Film Society. So this society is we are the largest organizers of film festivals in Singapore. So we run like 6 to 7 film festivals every year, and yeah. So basically anything that has to do with, if you want to do like movie screenings and whatnot, you also can ask. So for Happiness Initiative, right, we've been doing a lot of, we were supposed to run like a conference and a film festival earlier this year, but it was all postponed due to COVID. So what we've been doing is that we've been doing a lot of online events, and I think there are a couple of interesting things, and I think I echo what a number of other people say, that it really depends the kind of format you want that suits your event best, and the kind of platform really depends on the kind of event that you're running and the audience you're targeting. Yeah, so we have run like cozy sessions like this kind of setting where you have 20, 30 people, and then you have this kind of format where many people can talk and share and discuss. We have run a online webinar once where a couple of times over the past couple of weeks where we have more than 100 people each time, and you realize that the kind of formats that you really need to do is completely different. One example I would give is breakouts, right? So when we did this like 30 people cozy session and we did this breakout, basically the people who come were people that we knew somehow, somewhere, and they were people that were very interested in the topic of well-being. So when they came, they were ready to discuss, and then they were ready to talk and everything. So we break them out into breakout groups of 4. And a lot of them still come back to us and say that, oh, you give us 20 minutes, but it was not enough. We wanted to have more time, right? Then after that, so we thought, wow, this is interesting. People love it. And then, so after that, when we did this resilience series, right, we had 100 over people. We did the same thing. So we broke everyone into groups of 4. And then after that, we had a session. Then after that, when we had the event feedback, wow, everybody was like, wow, this breakout room so awkward, like everyone never turned on camera, no audio. I feel like talking to myself. And then you have all these problems. And then we learned that the audience matters. So eventually, when we did the larger events, like when we expected more than 100 people attending, we really did very different structural changes to the way it ran. Like one example was that the breakout rooms, we made them bigger. So we had 8 people per group. We made sure that we had facilitators to every group. Yeah, so these are little ways that I guess through running the events, you sort of learn, and then you try to find ways to tweak the events. And the other thing that I've been doing, Evelyn and briefly mentioned, is Netflix parties, where we use this app called netflixparty.com, where people can sort of watch a film on Netflix together. And then what we do is that we do a post-screening dialogue via Zoom or Google Meets, and you have a conversation over there. Yeah, and for the Film Society side, a lot of the film festivals, the difficulty now is that there are a lot of things that are not ready for online film festivals, because when you talk about movie screenings online, right, there's a lot more security features that are needed before you can do screenings online. So a lot of things are now, even now, you don't see any online film festival precisely because of that reason. And I think Evelyn also experienced once, because she tried to do a movie screening and basically she couldn't get the permission to do it, because when it comes to film rights, it's also a very complex thing to navigate. Yeah. So some of my general experiences, right, and I echo what Nicholas said earlier, is that you really have a much, much larger target audience, and your reach is much bigger when you do online events. And I've seen this consistently throughout many, many events. Even the events that we run, you realize that, wow, suddenly a lot of people attended. Then at first I thought that, wow, maybe because we are getting better, our content is getting interesting. But then after that, I attended other events and I realized that this is consistent throughout many different organizations organizing all these events. And I realized that first thing, you don't have the geographical boundaries. And the other reason I realized is also that because when you run physical events, right, you attract a certain crowd of people that enjoy attending these physical events. But there are a huge group of people that are perhaps more introverted. They don't like to interact with people, that may not even attend these events, right? And now that a bulk of the events are all going online, suddenly you have a whole new market of people that are suddenly unlocked and untapped. And now they're attending all these events. And these are probably the people that you will see that when they come to your events, they will not turn on their video, they will not turn on their mics, and they are just there to listen. Yeah, so you have a much greater reach. The other thing I learned is that it's really so much easier to get special guests for your events. So one example was when Evelyn mentioned about this Netflix party we did for My Beautiful Broken Brain. We managed to get the director of the film to do a dialogue with us after the session. And I think that, I mean, if COVID never happened, we would probably have never been able to get her, because online events are not common. And you want to fly her in, you have to pay for the air tickets and everything. And the other thing is also because everybody now is stuck at home, everybody has a lot of time. Yeah, so like one of the things we realized this, like when we run so many events, is that it's very easy to get very interesting, high-profile guests to come onto your program. Like in the next couple of weeks, we're also going to do a partnership with Shaw, and we are doing a lot of film screenings, and it's so easy to get directors now. Yeah, it's so easy to get filmmakers on board, and these are high-profile filmmakers who make big films in the US that have now suddenly have time, and they don't charge you fees or anything, and you don't have to pay for flights and accommodation, because all they need to do is just log in and spend that 1 hour plus with you on the platform, on Zoom or whatever, right? One challenge of this whole online thing is that engagement becomes a very, very big problem, and for me, it's an important thing because I think engagement is very important to us. So, for example, now you see everyone is in this thing, right? But the problem is that every one of them, you never know, they may be just doing some other thing, and they're just leaving the thing on. You will never know, right? But you run physical events, it's very easy because they're right in front of you. If they're using their phone, you know that they're not engaged, right? And this is sometimes a hurdle that online events have to do. So that's why we do like sometimes funny things, like you do games, you do breakout rooms and stuff like that, in order to bring the engagement back and to understand whether people are feeling interested in your events. Yeah, and Nicholas mentioned this point also, that now everybody is running online events, so you really have to stand out to make your events really interesting and engaging for people. And another thing is marketing also. I think marketing is also very important now, because the thing about marketing is that it's always been very important, but now the problem is that now everything is going online. It's a very crowded space. So for every event that you're running, there's 10 other people that are also running probably the same thematic event that attracts the same audience. So I guess, it's easier because you have a much wider reach, but it's also harder because you have a much more saturated view of event organizers. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, these are some general thoughts I have when it comes to running events. And I guess, if people have questions, it will be better, because I feel that I also very mindful. I want to make it relevant to people here, so I would rather answer questions rather than just rattle on about my experiences. Yeah.
Thank you, Sherman. So thanks everyone, the three other panelists and Nicholas as well for your sharing and your introduction. So maybe I think what we can do, right, is I'll just kind of ask those two questions that came out earlier from our pre-event kind of discovery. And then, once the panelists kind of please feel free to kind of answer them. I feel like some of the points you already mentioned in your introduction as well. And then, if anyone else, you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to use the chat or unmute yourself. So I think the first piece is really on the piece on audience engagement, right, that Sherman, you mentioned earlier. I think I'd like to pose this question to you for you to start first, because I feel like you've done a really good job, you and Simon, his co-founder, with the happiness kind of initiatives, brown bag series, or even the whole resilience series. So how have you guys approached audience engagement, right, in a way that kind of is conversational and yet still kind of keeps people engaged to be on the session for the 2 hours that you run it?
I guess one of the key things is that we try to encourage people to talk. Yeah, because you see, I think we take it from our own experiences. So last time, there was one time I remember I attended an event, and it was online webinar, and then basically it was talking on mental health, right? And then what happened was that they had a few psychologists that came up and did presentations, and these presentations was, I mean, to put it bluntly, it was really very boring, because they were basically just flashing slides, and then they were just talking, right? And then they had numbers and everything. And because it's online, it's so easy to get disengaged, because it's so easy now for me to just switch over to like my browser and then just go to Facebook and then start scrolling and get distracted. It's so easy for me to just pick up my phone now and nobody will know, right? And the whole thing was very one way. And that's why I realized that I didn't learn. So when eventually we ran our events, one of the things that we really thought of is that we didn't want that kind of experience for our audiences. We really wanted it to be engaging. So one of the main things is that we made sure that a lot of our events had breakout sessions, because the moment you have breakout, people that were willing to talk and willing to share, they would have the opportunity to talk and to share, right? And it makes them feel more involved. And to the point that sometimes I feel a bit insecure, because sometimes I feel that the conversation, the breakout is so much more interesting that when they come back, they're not really interested in hearing us. They wanted to go back to the rooms and continue that discussion. Yeah, so that's the thing. So another thing is that when we have small groups like this, we encourage people to talk. So we just call up people and ask them to ask questions and hear their voices, because somehow it breaks the monotony. Yeah, if I'm just here sharing a set of slides with you, it becomes very monotonous because it's just me talking to you and there's no way of question. But if you just get like someone to ask questions or what, and you hear different people's voice, it makes the whole thing more dynamic, a more interesting exchange. And so one of the things we do when we need to have like a one-way presentation is we do it in an interview format. Yeah, so there was one time Vincent was our guest speaker. So rather than just Vincent, okay, you have 15 minutes, share your experiences, what we did was that we turned it into an interview format where we sort of pre-plan what we want to say. And then I just asked Vincent questions and then he answered it. So it becomes more interactive in that sense. So and then I guess people can be more interested in that. It's breaking the monotony. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Would the other panelists like to respond? Nicholas, Louis, or Evelyn?
I just typed in the chat, right? So actually one of the tips to manage the distractions is to have a mildly distracting chat thread. So if you have your members in the audience kind of just talking shit with each other, right? People are like, oh, I want to see what next person types. Because I mean, we have a tendency to want to multitask. We want to like watch people's face. We want to like see what people are thinking. So as I'm looking at the screen and listening to anyone speak, I'm also curious about the chat and like what else is people thinking? What else how are they responding? So if you kind of like make the effort to keep the chat alive, right, then you kind of have two conversations going at one time, and those who are able to focus will focus lah. But then those who get distracted will be amused by what's happening in the chat instead.
Yeah, just to add into what Lewis was saying, right? Like this, I actually like had the same kind of like mentality to the chat. It's like, you know how you go for like those like conferences or seminars, right? When the main event is happening inside, but everybody's outside, like chit-chatting and networking and doing their own thing. It's kind of exactly the same thing. So at first I was finding like, you know, like, hey, why isn't anybody paying attention and like not respecting the speaker? Then I just, you know, took it one step further and said, hey, actually, this is just the same thing that we do, right? You know, we don't push everybody to get into the room to like listen to the speaker in an offline like conference, right? We just let everybody go in and out of the different rooms and do stuff. So it's almost kind of like the same thing. But I will admit that sometimes, like if you're the speaker and you see the chat keeps moving, you know, you feel like, hey, am I like, you know, not like engaged enough with the audience, or like, why are they talking, not listening to me? It kind of has that feeling, but I've kind of gotten past it as long as the chat is relevant to the conversations. Yeah.
Actually, that's a really interesting point. So yesterday we ran a brain health forum, which was targeted at the public because aphasia is linked to brain health. And we, thanks to Louis, actually, his suggestion of doing live streaming, we actually did like a Zoom plus Facebook Live. So it was almost like running two events at the same time. And one of the things we thought about in terms of engagement was to prepare lots of fun questions and fun facts, right? And asking audience members questions, right? And it was interesting because the audience in both on both platforms reacted quite differently. It was really great on Facebook. People were just spamming responses and just answering. But with Zoom, a friend actually texted me after the Zoom, hey, you need to ask your volunteers to go easy on the chat, man, because it was just a lot of information coming out. Just fun facts like, oh, you know, did you know that the human brain is like 1.4 kg, that sort of thing. Yeah. But with Facebook Live, it was excellent. The engagement was superb. But with Zoom, I think I think people, I don't know, maybe it was just a mix of the audience as well, because we realized that older people were coming on to Zoom to attend the event. So it was more caregivers and just older people in general. I think they have gotten the hang of Zoom. But Facebook, we just had people coming in and out. Yeah, so like a younger set. So it's interesting how, I guess, yeah, the same thing we use, the same set of questions we use and the same fun facts we use just didn't engage the same way because of the audience and the platform, perhaps. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, and I'll just like to invite folks from the audience. Would you like to bring your voice in? Maybe Doug, if you will, if you like, you bring your voice in on this matter of engagement and how do we design for audience engagement in the online world.
Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks. So, hi everybody. I think a lot of the things have already been said. I really like the idea about, I'm still a little bit used to the face-to-face stuff, right? But I think the pre-work, how it's all set up beforehand is even more important so you get the right people. But I still think it comes down to really good questions, like to send people into breakout rooms with really clear questions that are quite generative and things like that. I can't think of anything more insightful to say at this point, but because it still comes back to the process, right? I mean, most of this stuff is more like facilitation. So I still think it's process and questions, yeah, which I think you all have talked about in some form, and some extra tips tonight.
Yeah, just one more thing to add, right? It just popped in my head. How many of you guys use a run sheet, like an event run sheet? I see one hand. I see James. Anybody else? No. I almost wanted to ask, use some of the reactions or something, but never mind. So I think it's really important to have a run sheet because, for a lot of offline events, we're so used to just making eye contact with our team members or running over to settle something. But one of the biggest challenges for producing or running online events is that your team may also not be in the same room or location as you. And so everybody needs to, at least as much as possible, be on the same page, right? So it's very important that all of y'all have a run sheet and almost down to the nitty-gritty as to when things are going to change. So for example, if you're doing a live stream, right, when is a particular banner going to go up? When exactly is the introduction to the next speaker going to happen? And when that happens, what banner or link, associated with that speaker is going to be flashed? What verbal cues or physical cues are going to happen for you to take note that this is the time for you to do something. Yeah, so a run sheet is really important, and also specifically for the guests or the speakers, because they may not be familiar with the platforms you're using. So to get them to become a bit more familiar, maybe we'll share some other stuff. I'm going to find an example of a run sheet one of my friends' community in Malaysia uses as an example for you to see. And I'll come back shortly and share that.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Maybe while we're on this, right, since we're kind of hearing different perspectives as well, would anyone kind of like to chime in from the audience? You bring your voice in to share with us, how is this landing for you? Liana says even though her camera is not on, she's super engaged with capital letters. Furiously taking notes.
Hi, okay, since you asked to put in our voice, I will lend my voice. Yeah, I've actually been enjoying the session so far. Really, I've been taking a lot of notes. I think I was the one who asked a question about how to make the session online more engaged. I really like Louis's tip about hiding the non-video participants as something new. But to that point, right, I was wondering, I don't know, wouldn't that alienate those people who are already not on video because maybe they're introverted or whatever, because if you hide their non-video panel, right, then you can't even see their name, so you can't even kind of arrow you can't even arrow them, you can't even call out their name. So yeah, just like wondering whether, I think it's okay to still have that blank screen there as long as their names are there. So you can still kind of talk to them even if they don't reply you, so they can at least still feel connected to the event in that sense. Yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. But I'm here, everyone. That's all.
So actually, when you do hide, right, if someone without a video speaks, their name actually shows up at the top, and to say this person is speaking. So there's that lah, but I don't think that's the full thing.
Sure. Thanks, Luis.
No problem.
I just want to share to say that I've learned a lot. I'm using my husband. He's supposed to be on, but and I thought he arrowed me to be listening in on behalf of Sparks, and it's Vincent's wife, Trisha, and a lot of good tips because I'm also like panelist for other organizations. I've been doing quite a few speaking engagements, and I know behind the scene there is a lot of things involved. And just like Nicholas said, I did an event where they had a run sheet, and it was like less than an hour event, and took us 5 hours of rehearsal, trying to coordinate every single one. It's like, oh my God, this is like a full stage, and my little portion was just 5 minutes. So 5 hours of my life spent on the 5 minutes, but it was perfect because everybody had to know what they need to do, and it was run on different platforms, both on Zoom as well as the Facebook Live. So thank you everyone for sharing. It was really good, even though I was hiding behind the scene. And it's also because my husband is those that tape out the camera. He actually puts a tape. See, there is a tape. And I told him about the etiquette, and I'm gonna emphasize again about what Louis said. How it doesn't connect with the audience. I'm somebody who loves to see a reaction from people, but he never ons his camera. So different preferences, and I think also depending on the event, because I'm a coach, so for me, I need to see body language, I need to see reaction to connect. But for him, he's in IT, so it's totally different kind of environment. So I guess we need to embrace that. Yes, I think there was earlier on somebody was mentioning everybody learns differently and expresses differently. Yeah. All right, that's my cut.
Thank you for that, Trisha.
Let me quickly share an example of a run sheet. I think it's quite important. Sorry. So it'll just take maybe about 20 seconds. So essentially, like, this is what a run sheet should kind of look like. Should have all the details of your event. If you're using like broadcast media and whichever platforms necessary to put the links, please put the links there. Right, put your event flow. And this is, I'm not a very thorough person, so I did not create this. It goes to some of my more thorough analytical colleagues who literally write down like every single transition, like for example, start cue, first up, so when you hear the host or the moderator say first up, that's the time to see on the right hand side, there's a plus besides the banner of the speaker one. So it's almost as though like, right down to the nitty gritty as to what is happening for your event, so that everyone is on the same page. Maybe even sharing information to your speakers prior to the event of what they require, what they need, so that when they come onto your panel, onto your event, they are prepared and they don't have a spotty internet or a weak audio or a video setting, right? Maybe give them a key to like, okay, like to how the format is going to be done, right? So this is just a really quick, simple one to just share with you. It's our run sheet kind of looks like. There's no one fit. Every different event or community will have their own based on the event. But please have a run sheet.
Well, then I can share like a run sheet from one of the events I ran, but it takes on a very different format because I'm the non-structured type of person. So this is the event itself. We were using pretty much a design software to use for any visual references. we moved away from using Zoom's default like whiteboard functions and all that because it's a little bit crappy. So we use other design software to do it instead. So actually this is accessible by anyone, and as long as we like say you see share a link, right, anyone can access and even edit the content here. So this lends itself easily to audience participation as well. So how we kind of have the run sheet, a very crappy version here, but this is not the interesting one. I think we kind of peg it to the content that we're going to cover, and we kind of use this as a visual, like, I don't know, flip chart paper, our like visual clipboard, right, to really just talk about what are the things that people mention, what are things discussed in the panel, and people can kind of just put up the information, and we just follow through by the timing here, so it's a timely reminder for everyone also. This is just one of the tools. This one's called Figma. It's a design software, but one thing that people like to use also is this one called Miro, which does like post-its, so people can just throw up some of the thoughts they have, and you can very well just screen share this as we talk. Then that can kind of like facilitate a group conversation.
Yeah, thanks. Since we are on the, can I also share about the run sheet? For me, I kind of combine the run sheet together with my lesson planning because I also want to make sure that I have, all the very different points and the learning objectives covered. So, since to have a look at all the different flavors, I'll just share very quickly. This is what my run sheet looked like. So I actually have things like literally the timings and how much time left, and then also what the format of the activity, whether it's an activity, whether it's a breakout group, and then pointers for me. So I think for me, it helps me to look at, what's supposed to be covered, what time. I always will have a clock in front of me, to make sure that I don't overrun. And so far, it has really helped me, to keep on time. A few things, just now we were talking about chat, right? I like the thing about chats. One of my latest online activity, I actually tried something different. I kind of like steal ideas from other people. I attend other events as well. And I realized that sometimes there are certain events where you realize that there's someone actually, while I'm presenting, right? There's actually another person in the chat typing the main points. So what I did was that I actually got a volunteer to actually help me, and she was really, really good. I mean, it's like I didn't even give her instructions. I literally just tell her, say, okay, this is what you're going to help me. And she literally went through my slides, take all the main points, and then she literally have a list of things that she's going to put into. So she type it into the text notepad. So she just copy and paste. Even like when I talk about certain links, she'll quickly paste the link there. So, people could. So I think it's a good idea that I think it Nicholas who mentioned that while some people may not be engaged on the screen, right? Some people may actually be looking at the chat. They can actually keep up with it as well. And some people are more visual actually, right? So they can actually see what's happening. So I find that really be very helpful. There were also I attended an online training about online facilitation as well. And some important things that I kind of learned also is how at the very beginning, get people very used to using chat also. So actually I found that this is very, the person did it in a very, very tactful, in a very strategic manner. He didn't even share about this as a facilitation tool, but he actually says, okay, like for example, there was one, he was teaching this to about 400 people from different parts of the country. So then he says, okay, type into the chat which country you're from, and then people start typing, that was the very beginning. And then later on he did something, it says, change your name, because in Zoom you're able to change your name, right? And then change your name to a pronoun plus your name. So like Happy James, and I think it makes it a little bit interesting that people have kind of like, they're engaged, they have a sense of belonging to the event. And same like Louis, I actually use what I call game storming. So Miro, if you're looking for a free alternative, check out Metro Retro. It's free. You can actually do a lot of post-it pads. You can even have fireworks. It's quite cool. Yeah, and I think the last thing that I found helpful for me is that we want to prevent all the technical problems, right? So what I did was that I actually created a page on my web page that gives all the guidelines. How do you actually prepare for your online learning? So including things like go to a place where it's quiet, where you have stable internet connection, use a earpiece, because sometimes people could be having fan, and then the fan will be blowing at the microphone, and then you have and it affects everyone. So yeah, but the run sheet, it's really, really very, very helpful. So do think about it. It doesn't have to be really be very, very, very too detailed, but it's supposed to help you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, James. And I just want to bring in one of our friends from Malaysia. So we actually have two friends from Malaysia joining us today. Victi, maybe if you could kind of share some of your own kind of insights in terms of organizing events and kind of maintaining audience engagement.
Hello. Okay, hi. My name is Vicky from Malaysia. So many interesting tips. Thank you for sharing. And I have been working and partnering with a friend in Singapore, and we have been organizing a lot of events on dancing, especially. And I think what we have learned so far is really how do we create something. We come up with team every week, different teams every week to increase. So we want to make it fun and we want to make it interesting as well. So every time people come with something new, there's something new that we can all learn together and as we engage. And I realize that every week is different. You know, things changes every time so fast. And right now we're still adjusting to what we can offer and how we can create more value so that we could charge instead of asking for donation. Yeah. So right now, I think I'm at that stage right now, creating value that we could ask and can receive more so that we could create more. And a very interesting thing that I saw from Daybreaker, how it's a dancing platform as well. People move morning movement exercises where they have like thousands over people coming together to dance, and they provide so many interesting segments for 2 hours. And like people teach them to dance, people learn new skills, and then there's some free time for them to share. So I guess it's the varieties and ability to learn new things and meeting like-minded people like where we are right now. We are all event organizers. And I just want to acknowledge that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Victi. Thank you for sharing your experience. I feel like it's such a beautiful summary of those 3 points that you mentioned. I just want to do a quick time check. There's about 10 minutes left in this kind of panel discussion. Of course, please feel free to stay and chat more if you like. We'll hold this room for another half an hour. But at this point, maybe to invite back the panelists, would you like to kind of share anything else besides what you've shared earlier? I know maybe Evelyn, if you could kind of also take us through some of the other events that you run for Aphasia Awareness Month and share a bit more of how have you brought folks who basically find so much difficulty accessing digital tools, how have you brought them online?
Vincent. So I think just now I was too focused on the public events because we are just so buzzed up from everything that's happened yesterday and the last week. But one of the things that we run regularly, like every week, we do our chit-chat gatherings where we basically have it's a virtual cafe concept where our participants with aphasia can come in and have a safe space to actually have conversations, and we break them out into rooms. So bearing in mind that these are participants who have difficulty to some extent comprehending and even conversing, right? We need to make things very visual. So it was challenging at first, thinking about how to actually engage and also, a big part of it was training our volunteers. But now we have found a really cool thing. So we use a lot of virtual tours, just 3D. So I'll give you an example of what we do. We also use, every week we will have different themes, and say 1 week we could have the Saturday that just passed, we did the theme was Singapore past and present, and we wanted to tie it in with the elections, right? So staying apolitical, but just talking about where do you live, and showing them something that's very, very Singaporean and totally cool. Yeah, totally cool. So that's like with HDB. And another week we talked about food, and to kickstart the whole conversation, we did like a virtual tour of a market, a hawker place, and we said, hey guys, do you know where this place is? And it just started everyone sharing, even the very shy ones, because they were so like, wow, this is cool, right? So just another fun tip that we could do, like in terms of visual, so going beyond the 2D and taking it to like 3D pictures and even using videos. Yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, on that virtual tour thing, right, I think I can encourage you guys that yes, we are very used to using Zoom on our computers, but Zoom is available on your phone too. So you can have real tours that you bring your participants through. So for example, one of the suggestions we had was if you ever do any work with the homeless, for example, and you kind of want people to have a glimpse into what it's like without having like a whole crowd of people following you, like have your pocket, like have a phone kind of following around, and you can kind of let people have a glimpse into that. So I think it's just room to stretch your creativity in how you might want to play a format.
Yeah, I think that like the thing about online platforms, right, is that because with offline events, like we know okay, there's a physical venue, like everybody just gathers there, someone talks in the front, or if it's a different format, the same. But we're in a way constrained to the features of the platform, right? So I think for a start, everybody feels okay, how am I going to do this, right? But however, my suggestion would be for everyone to really try out platforms, even if some are not as tech savvy, just get started to play around with it. And I think after running it running your event a couple of times, the more creative ones, right, would think about how to make even the platform itself a part of their event, right? And I think this is like what Lewis's point, right? Like, hey, just take out I wouldn't have even thought about that, right? Just take out your phone and walk around, and then you could actually have had an online event about, maybe a peek into the lives of, the homeless, right? Or something like that, or, discover or learn something. I would have never thought about doing that. Right? So it's really about, I guess stretching the boundary of creativity and not look at the platforms as, being a constraint or as a limit. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Nicholas. Sherman, would you like to add on to that? Share some of your insights.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think sometimes you just have to try. Yeah. So the thing about this is that every one of us have our own particular audience and community that we reach out to, and the needs are very different. So like Evelyn shared, like her community tends to not be as tech savvy, and then the way she deals with the events is just completely different. Yeah. So for us, like we deal with more younger folks, right? So when we do Netflix parties, it was easy because they could figure out the tech stuff really fast. Yeah, then at the time when we did the collaboration with Evelyn for the film, and then her audience just had so much trouble with it, and some of them couldn't join, and then there was a rush to like get things started. And I think that a lot of these lessons that we learn and the proficiency we get in using these platforms would not have been there if we have never failed and screwed up before in the events. Yeah, like one of my earliest events I did for the Resilience series, right, was very interesting because we wanted to do all these breakouts things. So I was very used to these small 20, 30 group size people. And then like what I would do is that I was the facilitator, and then I would just manually put people in the breakout rooms because we have facilitators. So I had to manually do them to make sure that every group had a facilitator, right? So after that, when we had this 100+ people event, and I just did the same thing. So I was the guy that was doing everything. I was the facilitator. So I got all the facilitators to come earlier, and then after that, I sorted them nicely into different breakout rooms. So we had like 20 breakout rooms, right? And then everything was neat. Then after people started coming in, and then like I started slotting them nicely into the rooms, and then I got disconnected. Yeah, so when I got disconnected, I came back. Basically, everything was gone. The breakout rooms was in a mess, and there was nothing. And then like the event was starting, and I was like panicking because I was just like I was trying to host the thing, and then at the same time I was trying to sort people into the groups, and I was trying and because all the names are mashed up. Because when I got the facilitators to come early, it's easy because there are 20 of them there. I just put them in 20 different rooms. But now there was 100 names there, and then I had to find the 20 names of the different people and sort them out. And then eventually I gave up. I just randomly put everybody into random rooms, and then but it was a very big lesson learned, and I learned that sometimes when you run this kind of things, also you like the run sheet, the format is important because it helps people to understand what their roles are. So when you have different people managing different things, then if you are the one that's hosting, you should be hosting, and let someone else deal with the tech stuff. Yeah, but all these lessons really is just you just have to try, figure it out, and ask people who have done it before, and just try it out.
Thank you, Sherman. Would anyone, I guess we have time for maybe one or two more questions, last questions before we bring this to a completion. Would anyone like to ask a question?
Hi. I thought I'll just share because I think we all talk about fun events and stuff. Something that I've experienced within my volunteer capacity is support groups. So I find that because for Breast Cancer Foundation, we're trying to how to reach out to those people who are affected. And for the younger group, it's okay, but with the elderly as well as those Mandarin speaking group, because I am one of their leaders. And so I find it's difficult to connect with them. So what we did was actually have a really, really small group, say like even 4 separate groups, to get them just to play around with this Zoom thing. It's so elementary to the point where they want to talk to each other. They don't know how to use the chat box. And they were literally like texting something on their WhatsApp and then showing somebody that way. And everybody have fun with it. So it's not intimidating in a big group. And we find that only then, when they're all like kind of more savvy, then we put them kind of combined to a bigger group. And then we start with 10 and then we expand it a little bit. And slowly they knew to have fun with it. And then they will start sharing. But for those new cases, the support groups are for our old timers. But the new cases, newly diagnosed patients, we will just keep it to maybe a handful of 5 each time we do something, because we find that the connection with virtual is still very different from the actual event in person, and they tend to be a little bit more disconnected. However, they could also be vulnerable. So it's harder for them to share. So we might even plan some questions beforehand. We say, somebody asked about this. Then slowly we can get them engaged. So this is my little sharing about the running support group virtually versus in person is kind of different. Of course, we would prefer the actual person kind of connection.
Thank you for sharing, Trisha. If you can, I please stay for the follow-up conversation after this, because I'm sure Evelyn and some others, Sherry as well, would love to kind of have a chat with you around this idea of running online support groups. Maybe open up to the floor. One last question or comment before we come to a close.
Vincent, if I may just make I'm really very, very heartened and grateful for you organizing this thing. I've always had this concept that moving online was important, but it was still a struggle. But listening to all the ideas here and then and all the brainstorm and all the very nice best practices, I'm very convinced now that we will never go back to the old way of running events. Many of us are still wishing that we will go back to the old days where we can sit down in a conference room and running it the good old-fashioned way. But within this group, there are so many best practices, so many good ideas. If we can show that we can do things differently, but now online, the scale, as Sherman has described, is limitless. And then the environmental impact of what we're doing is then almost negligible.
Oh, right.
Because in the past, you literally have to bring people together. You have to on air conditioning for the room, or you have to, and lots of charts and all that. But if we do this right, we can run, what did Evelyn suggest, virtual tours. That's mind-blowing. You bring your event into the lives of, So I just want to say that this is really exciting. I think if we get this right, we show the world how online events can be just as impactful, and then we'll never go back to the past. And then we're going to use this whole COVID crisis to transform this whole industry of learning.
Wow.
Ash, I just wanted to say that, I can't personally wait for us to go back offline so I can meet people, hug people, I don't know, meet people in person. But to your point, right, just to add that, right, I think it's not like, it'll just be online, but rather once we go back to, being able to have offline event, the online element, the competencies that we build now will actually aid the offline element. So when you go back and you do offline, right, you can still have the streaming, you can still have an online element, for example. And by that way, for all you guys, it'll allow you to expand or even have a further reach for all the different causes and initiatives that you're running for. To put it simply, 2030 came to 2020, right? The COVID-19 just brought the future forward. because not just in events, right? People are now just in the US, right? You just drive up to Walmart and then you pick up what you purchase online and then they just throw it into your car and then you go off. You don't even step into the store, right? These sorts of systems and everything, right? If I can just keep it short, it's in the future that people saw would happen, right? But now everything has been pushed forward. So yeah, essentially, I see this as a great opportunity for whatever you're doing to really embrace it, in a way, force you, some of you, to embrace technology for your causes.
Thank you, Nicholas. And thanks everyone for contributing your voice as well and kind of sharing your insights and experience. I think what Ash said really is kind of the intent for a good space now as a cooperative. If you think about the session that we've had today, there's so much asset, so much wisdom in each and every one of us to have this space to come and kind of share here with each other today. Many people have reflected that we learned a lot. Now imagine if we could do this for social issues. Think about the nature of social issues and how interconnected that they are, right? Imagine we were having these conversations and we were collaborating meaningfully with one another to amplify our social impact in each of the issues that we kind of are focusing on. And that really is the, I guess, wish and dream, for us here at A Good Space Cooperative. So a bit of a self-plug, to learn more and to find out how to join this co-op, you can go to the link here and then if you join as a member, and we want to invite you to join this collective change making force. And to kind of bring this to a close, right? I'd like to invite everyone to just maybe take 5 seconds to type into the chat. Yes, thank you, Nicholas, for sharing your contact details. So please feel free to reach out to Nicholas. He's really been such a friend, for myself, but also for the AGS community at large. So thank you very much, everyone, panelists as well, for sharing. But to close, just like to invite you to take 5 to 10 seconds and just type in, what is one thing you learned today, and we can kind of just get a nice collective sense making of what's coming up for everybody. Yeah, just type it into the I think chat box. What's one thing you learned today? And you can also save the chat if you like. If there is, if you want to save all the tools that have been so beautifully shared by everyone, there is 3 dots at the right. You just click that and you click Save Chat, and then you'll be able to kind of have access to that. Yeah, various tips to engage audience, says James. Possibilities are endless. Yeah, I think one of these things is also this idea that we are learning into the emerging future, right? No one really knows what this post-COVID world will be like, but I think together with our wisdom, we can learn into it together. Dave says human energy, connect it and unleash it. Virtual tours, themes, fun facts. Yeah, I learned what a run sheet was. Didn't know what it was before. Using questions pre-event to engage the audience. Wati says engaging participants pre-event. Tips on how to save chat. Thank you. Yeah. Michael has also offered, at the next A Good Space huddle to share some of his online warm-ups that he does for folks before they get into a warm-up session. So if you want to learn that, stay tuned for the next one. James has shared another resource called Zapier for automation post-events. Run sheet for Vicky. Vincent says he's learned some good tips on engaging online audience. Okay. Otherwise, thank you everyone for contributing your thoughts. If you'd like to stay, please feel free. Otherwise, please feel free to take your leave. I'd like to invite the panelists, if you can, just stay for a while, 10 to 15 minutes. And if anyone has any other questions, we can continue to discuss. Thank you. Yeah.
By the way, Ash, I think your bird is very cool. I thought it was a virtual thing at first.
Started moving. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how come the technology is so good? It feels so real.
Because it is real.
Yeah, I thought I was suffering from Zoom fatigue. Yeah, like, oh, double take. Yeah.
Hey, Nicholas, I have a question. So is it possible to actually put so for example, when we did the event yesterday, because the main mode was supposed to be Zoom, but we added the live stream kind of like, 2 days before the event.
Yeah.
So is it possible to actually have 2 links?
On
Peatix,
right,
yes.
you only put one link inside.
Only one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but specifically that feature was built or is being built with the design and the intent for more closed private events, whereas you see for a live stream it's more public, right? So you don't really need to put it in there. Yeah. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's just a thought. So what we did was we put the Zoom link, and then in the additional notes, we just messaged and told everyone that, we messaged everyone to tell them that there's a live stream option should they not want to go on Zoom. But also in the additional notes, we added our Facebook page, because we are mindful that the people who are coming on are not our regulars, but just members of the public.
Yeah, just curious, right? Don't mind everyone if I'm asking even this question, right? What was the purpose to have like the Zoom as well as the Facebook live stream? Like,
Right. So the purpose of running that event really was to reach out to a new audience. So most of our events are very closed door. It's very targeted at our community. So it's very closed door, and we run it like all the time, right? 1 month we would run like 7 events. So it's our audience, but it's a facial awareness month. So the things that we're doing, we just wanted to do public stuff to reach out to new audiences, and we purposely chose a topic like this because we feel like it will reach out to a different audience than the earlier event that we did, which is Human Library, which would obviously attract a younger set, right? So with something like brain health, and true enough, we reached out to like the crowd above 50, and with the Facebook Live, it's original content. We just wanted to let people know that, hey, we're doing this live event. You can join us. It's an hour and a half, and true enough, I mean, it was good. The stats at the end of it, we had like, it said that our video reached out to 1,400 over people, or 1,500 or something like that, and then had 600 over views, which to me is like I was just completely mind blown. I was like, yes, because that day we were talking about it with Louis and Vincent and Sherman, and then we were talking about ROI, and this is amazing ROI. Do a live stream and you just have people just coming in and watching it.
Because to have a huge audience, typically on Zoom, you need to get a webinar kind of tier, and it's very expensive. But if you just live stream, right, it's free, and then you use some other live stream platform for your large audience. Like you don't have 20,000 people watching on Facebook or YouTube. It doesn't affect your Zoom, and it doesn't affect the Zoom experience itself with that large group.
I find that with Facebook Live, that's the recording function, and then it stays in the Facebook, and then audiences who missed it actually can go back to it easily compared to going back to a Zoom.
Right.
So that's helpful for either as a participant or as somebody sharing, and for us to refer back to the link easier.
From acquiring new follower standpoint, it's also great because you let them view you on their native platform instead of coming to Zoom where you got to send follow-up conversations.
All right. I had a funny experience with Facebook Live. I went for a radio host interview, not knowing that it's going to be on live, Facebook Live, because I have no idea how it works and stuff like that. And interestingly, that my first ever Facebook Live exposure, 21,000 viewers. And then I didn't know how it worked because I wasn't sure, because the things keep coming. I wasn't sure where to look and what to do. And then the interviewer had to keep saying that you're on live. And then while the radio thing is, there's commercial, but yet there's no commercial on Facebook Live. So that's something to remember as a participant, and it keeps rolling and rolling. So that was a kind of like funny experience, but I didn't expect the exposure to be that big, because it was one of those Chinese, I thought uncle and auntie listened to kind of radio station, 958, right? And I was surprised. I thought at that kind of timing, only taxi uncles would listen to it. So I wasn't really kind of prepared. And then when I saw 21,000, I was surprised, and the comments keep coming. And so after talking to the host, they said that Facebook Live really opened up their market to a lot of younger generation, and especially for topics. They're not so keen about the radio part, but the topics will tend to draw audiences. Yeah.
Can I also just add, I think Facebook is a great platform, like everyone has said, for building audiences, but we also should be very wary of how the numbers are presented, because how Facebook counts views is that the moment someone sees your video for 3 seconds, it counts as a view. So if you really want to see like compare like apple to physical events, a good way is you go to Facebook Insights. You can really see the breakdown, like 3-second views, 10-second views, 15-second views, and how many people watch beyond a minute. And you realize that the numbers drastically different. It's still definitely good because it still reaches out to a wider audience. But sometimes I think maybe for publicity purpose to get more people to use Facebook, right? You know, they use the default figure is a 3-second view. So every time we see like, wow. So sometimes I get the experience before, like, wow, at first I saw, wow, thousands of people watching, wow, this really quite imba, right? After that, when I went through the statistics, I realized that actually it's only 3-second views. But then later when I saw the like 1 minute view, it's like less than 10% of that number. Yeah, so it's important. I mean, it's very, when you do your reporting to people or when you publicize, definitely use the 3-second view number because it's so much nicer, right? But I think for our own personal like impact measurement, it's good to also look at the deeper statistics to see how many people really attended the event fully. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. Evelyn, you go ahead first. I just have couple of comments about it, but you go ahead first.
Yeah. Oh, no. I was just going to say, we knew that people were fleeting in and out of the event, but such is the nature of Facebook. But for us, the measures, I mean, there were other measures that we used, for example, the increase in followership. So the fact that, you know, like there was a jump, we had, I think, additional, maybe about 30 people following, which to me is like great. You do a 1.5 hour event, which we were going to do anyway, right? Flash it on Facebook Live. And then there were, you know, people coming in. So that to me was like a good outcome. But I agree lah, there were people, I mean, probably most of it was like just 3-second views out of like a 60, 75, 90 minute event. Yeah.
Not too bad. 3 seconds of fame for 30.
I mean, it wasn't on me lah. It was the event itself.
I'm just paid for every click that there is.
Right.
No, we're not.
Evelyn, actually, I was thinking, right, just now, just also chime in a little bit. You were saying about the stream page link, right?
James, right?
Yeah. Huh? Sorry, James here.
James, right? Yeah.
Can you see me?
Yes,
my laptop battery died down already, so I'm using my phone now. Maybe you can actually, one suggestion that comes to mind is that maybe you can put the 2 links in maybe like a Google Doc, and then you link to the Google Doc, then people will see 2 links.
Right. Yeah.
Then also another question. I kind of like also saw, I'm not sure any of you used it. I haven't used it. But I saw that Facebook is also trying to come up with their own version of Zoom, right? With the Facebook Messenger rooms. Anybody use that yet?
Not yet.
I tried it out. It's just like Zoom lah, pretty much. Nothing too special.
I think for now,
does it have virtual backgrounds?
But they got filters. They don't have virtual background, but they got filters if you use.
Okay.
But I think the good thing about that is if your audience is already on Facebook, it could be a way to just pull them in. But I really suspect it's better for friends lah, more than events.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing I want to mention about live stream is that, you all were talking, like, is it? So sorry, just now I saw it's Trisha. Then I saw it's VC. So do I call it Trisha or VC? Okay. So earlier Trisha was sharing about the live stream, right? Like 21,000 views and everything. My personal opinion about the views thing, right, is to screw the views. And the reason is because, right, like at the end of the day, like also what was mentioned by Sherman, which is that, actually it's actually what it kind of view as basically someone just pass your video while they're scrolling to something else. So just think about it that way. But however, the content that you're producing, right, you get to save it, right? It's great because you're not running the live stream event for the sake of running the event. The live stream event works well because you can create content for your marketing. So for example, right, at the end of the event, the little quotes that you can use from your guests or maybe little like facts or snippets of nuggets of information that was presented or shared or that came out during the live stream could be used for your Instagram quote. The whole live stream could be turned into a blog article, right? They could use to share in your newsletter. So don't just think about the live stream as like, you're running a live stream event, but rather look at the live stream as the place where your content pillar, and then from there you use all the information to start pushing out, creating content right? And then like sometimes depending on how engaged your audience is, if they're asking questions, these questions can then, you can answer, or maybe post event, you can use the questions that they ask to create information or answers that could be shared with choose different social platforms or different media, depending on your situation, right? So for me, I look at the live stream events not as like an event, but rather as content creation, right? And the more you do it, if you can do it every week or every 2 weeks, and people start to see you're doing regularly, it becomes something that people may start to tune into, because maybe the first time I scroll past your live stream, right? But then every Wednesday I start to scroll past, what Breast Cancer Foundation is doing, right? Say, hey, oh, they're actually running this series, maybe one day I will tune in. So I would say is to just keep running it consistently and use it as a content pillar.
So you're saying that the live stream, for example, if it's an hour, you edit it into snippets and then put it in like that, is it? Or just normally the interviews, it could be like an hour show or half an hour show kind of thing. So when you're talking, is it like to edit it to just maybe a core topics?
No, so okay. So what I mean is that, let's say after you finish, you can actually download from Facebook the video and stuff like that, right? Yeah, so you can use that video and then you can just maybe take out certain snippets or certain like parts of the conversation you found interesting, and then share it on your Instagram or share it on your Facebook. Use that. So all of this just becomes part of your content, and you can just keep doing it over and over, because one of the things I find for some of our communities is that they run out of content to share. All the time, right? Whereas this kind of thing can become part, and you can keep running the same thing over and over, like I can tell you, people won't get tired of your ad, just keep running it, right? If it's an ad or post, just keep posting it, every now and then, because what you just try to do on social media is just to get people to just see your brand, and as long as you post something that's beneficial, useful, they wouldn't mind. And so that's just how I see the live streaming. Personally, for me, right, Peatix, we used to run this offline event called Backstage Pass, right? And I was like, after doing this last year, I'm like, oh my God, why you waste time doing the offline event? I mean, it's great, right? But I'm like, this is so much better. Like, we save money, save space, we are all sitting at home, we don't have to travel anywhere, it's so straightforward. Yeah, and the live stream events that actually is James, or James left. James was one of our speakers on a topic we had on mental health, right? And then we could just take his content, what he shared, and then turn that into our content. Anyway, I just wanted to share about live streams, and not to focus so much on the numbers, the likes or the views. Yeah.
Actually, Trisha, if you want an example of an organization that recently did that, you can go to Pink Dot's page. So, Pink Dot, during Pink Dot, they did a whole live stream about an hour plus event. So what they do after that is that they cut out segments of that live stream and then they post it separately across these few days. So in a way, like Nicholas said, you're just using the same piece of content, but breaking up into bits and pieces so that you can continually engage people that are your followers or engage new followers. And then like if you have a very big reach, so people will start sharing, and the more content they have, then the more people will share, and then the more, again, the greater reach that they get, or new audiences that they get. Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
If I can jump in to share, and I kind of regret because I should have shared it earlier when Doug was here, because he was actually asking about like that directory of event type of stuff.
Yes, yeah.
So National Day is coming, and I'm working with a bunch of folks to run a National Day event that's completely online. We actually did one last year where it's offline, it's like games and stuff like that, right? And we're gonna do it online. But in this online version, right, we know that a lot of things will be missing. Some things that people enjoy were like chance encounters with other people, were just lounging times rather than have an event or like program to follow, right? So we were trying to do an online version, and I wanted to nerd out a little bit because I find it really fun and interesting to do. So this is like a very like test version of it. It's definitely not fully built out, but the idea with this is kind of like what was suggested earlier, I think by Doug, which is actually all of these links, they are just Zoom links. So anytime you can like use Zoom to schedule a call and all that, right? Just get that URL and put it into, I don't know, like Wix or Squarespace, and plug it to a button and then put some description about what this segment is about. And you can kind of like have a breakout this way that is controlled by your audience rather than from the host trying to break people out. So this is one thing that we did. So we can kind of allow people to join and jump into different calls easily and decide where they want to go. So that was one fun thing. And then we slowly developed it into an alternate version because we felt like this one was very intentional. I had to want to do this activity to join that. So we created this other one where it's like kind of simulating like water cooler talks. So you might go to a water cooler and you bump into someone. And let's say you just go there, you can enter this call with other people who might be at a water cooler. And if I'm not keen on that, now I go to like Sharon's dating service and then I go and find some other folks who might be interested in dating or something. And the goal here is basically to jump on to different calls very seamlessly and quickly to create this experience. So this is something in progress that I'm still building out. I don't know whether I don't know Peatix interested to go and like one day build something like this.
So for those of you who are still on the call, we're not building that, but we are looking at building like literally you could stream your event through Peatix itself, so you don't even have to link up to like Zoom. I just on Friday I saw like a first mock-up of it, like a literal one our dev team was doing, so that will be coming up soon.
Yeah, so to nerd out a little bit more, this is like one I'm really excited about because I'm also building this. We wanted to create like a physical experience online. So what I did was basically build this particular prototype where you can kind of walk around in this space like in a like virtual Singapore. And like depending on where you go to, you can kind of trigger different stuff. So if I come here and I want to like chit chat on the beach chairs with people, I can just go there and I enter a call and chit chat with them. Once I'm done with that, then I'll move somewhere else. Maybe there's some other event or activity to go to, and I'll kind of head there and enter it. So this is just something I'm building that I'm quite excited about. Keen to see like how this can make events more interesting as well.
Louis, I'm really excited by that what they're sharing. If I may, I just want to share an idea that a good space is toying with doing. Okay, Vincent, if you don't mind, I'll just maybe throw the idea out and see how this team responds to it. So we all know about the fun pack that we are supposed to all be entitled to get. Anyone don't know what I'm talking about? The National Day Parade fun pack? Yeah. So from an environmental point of view, it's really the worst thing to do, right? You're giving things to people who probably may not need it. So anyway, we are told that the only thing we can do is to opt out. And by opt out, it means you don't collect it. But the fun packs will already be made and it will already be there. If you don't collect it, it's going to be wasted. So a good space is now thinking of how we can organize a protest where we will encourage Singaporeans to opt out, number one, as an act to say that I prioritize the environment more than I prioritize the fun pack. Okay. And then number two, we will arrange for the fun packs that are not collected to be properly given away to people who really need it. So for instance, the migrant workers who would really cherish the things that come in the fun pack, right? And then it will be a gesture for Singaporeans to thank the migrant workers for the decades of work that they put in building Singapore. And then number three, and I think the most important one, is to then try to show Singaporeans or bring up other ways of celebrating National Day that doesn't involve this entitlement mindset of getting a fun pack or kiasu, that I must be given things, a goodie bag mindset, but rather a different way of experiencing our patriotism. So Louis, when you shared that example, what connected for me was that can be actually a curated, almost like a good day. Vincent, you know when you do a good day, but now it's a good day online. And in that space, you can have many activities that we can curate from all the change makers that we have to experience Singapore in a different way. Maybe we could have a little corner where you can meet elderly people who share stories about growing up in Singapore 50 years ago. Maybe you can go to a different place where you can speak to the young who are telling us about tattoos and whatever that excites them, right? Yeah, I've got a teenage daughter, so tattoos is top of mind. Yeah. But it's a way for us to experience Singapore in an online way, but yet giving deeper experience. It's not just watch a video or talk to people, but rather a whole curated experience. So Luis, I'm really curious to hear your point.
If you want to contribute, like feel free to let me know. Then you can like join the like committee to go and work on this. Right. This is actually like the second year we're doing this. We actually did this last year as well. Adrian was there, was one of the activity partners, and basically it was kind of like what you described. We literally on our opening brief, right, we had a slide which showed those GRC or SMC banners which says National Day and then got People's Association logo and stuff. We pretty much just cancelled that out. And we say this is like National Day party but like for ourselves. And we basically kind of featured different people, people in like good space, for example, change makers. We brought like exactly like you were saying, not exactly youth who like maybe like tattoo, but there was like say a youth at risk who dropped out and then found a job, that kind of thing. So we actually did congregate these things. If you do want to learn or see more about it, it's actually on Facebook. It's actually on Facebook. If you search for this National Day Ground Up Party last year, we actually did it last year. This is like the numbers lah. And it was done all at the MPH in a good space and a couple of other venues. And there were a number of like things that people were doing as part of this. So I think there are some photos as well. But yeah, I mean, I look forward to you guys maybe joining us this year.
Yeah, and Louis, if Evelyn does a tour of a virtual tour of certain place, maybe to a migrant workers dormitory, and then having migrant workers talking to us, can all that be hosted on that platform?
I think as long as you do it like on Zoom or like the any like of these streaming platforms, you can probably integrate that in. So if like Evelyn uses Zoom, right, and then she has that space, I think we can slot that in, and I think it'll be quite exciting.
Oh, cool.
It'll be fun to get some virtual what do you call that, goodie bags too, instead of the actual physical one. Singaporeans still get something, but get it virtually, whether it's a exclusive only virtual background, very Singapore NDP kind of virtual stuff. I don't know what else you can get virtually, but anything virtually, just like you have to log in to register, and then you can get exclusive.
So when they pledge to not to opt out, in return they get some very special.
Correct. There was actually a petition going on, and I did sign for it because I said I didn't want it. I think it was circulated quite some time ago. But I don't know what happens to it.
You're one of the lucky ones. I think it was closed very quickly. I think the petition, but there was another form that went round and then was closed very quickly.
But
so the petition was going
on. Will be really good. Something that's of a memento or something that I don't know virtually.
You know why they're still pushing for the fun pack? Like, I mean, clearly they know that we don't want it. Is it like they really like ordered it and then it's like sitting in a warehouse somewhere, so like, oh shit, not everybody want it. But
I got a lot of auntie uncles, they like to collect the bags. They look forward to it.
Oh, okay.
Like I hang out with a lot of those auntie uncles in the 60 and above or 50 plus. They are really into all those bags.
So this is a very important moment where we can then show the government that enough of us don't need this goodie bag mentality. For now, they assume that most of us want a goodie bag, whether it's the auntie uncle or the closet uncle like me. So I think the mindset that most people want, only the niche green groups think that it's not necessary. But so this is a good opportunity if we can garner more than 50% of the fund packs to not be collected, to be opt out. I think that'd be a very strong message.
Maybe you can talk about this next Monday. We're having another having that meeting. Then I think it will be quite cool to see what we can do for National Day and like shape some of the beliefs, like you said, Ash, right? New beliefs and new narratives that we want for Singapore. I think it would be quite cool. Then Louis has done it before, and I think if we join him, right? I think it will be quite interesting.
Yeah.